Deep beneath the Sahara, a lost city whispers its secrets, and one woman carries its memory across time. From a radiant priestess in a civilization older than history to a modern scientist uncovering its mysteries, she is both past and present. Join her as she unravels forbidden knowledge, ancient technology, and secrets that could change the world forever. Follow her journey, the Keeper of Solara, as the desert itself awakens, and every step becomes a pulse between legend and reality. In the heart of the Sahara, where the wind erases footprints in minutes and the sun burns the horizon into gold, the monitors of Orion 9 research station began to flicker. Dr. Alia Kane leaned closer to the screen. Beneath miles of desert sand, the satellite Sentinel-X had revealed something impossible: vast geometric patterns, walls, and corridors forming a perfect circle. No natural formation could look that precise. No known civilization had ever built this deep beneath the desert. But what froze her blood was the pulse, a rhythmic electromagnetic signal echoing from the depths below. Frequency: 7.83 Hz. The Schumann resonance. The heartbeat of the Earth itself. Alia stared at the data, her pulse syncing with the pattern on the screen. For a moment, she could swear she felt it, inside her chest, faint but real, like a memory. That night, unable to sleep, she dreamed of a city bathed in golden light, towering sandstone spires, carved with symbols that shimmered like constellations. She saw herself there, not in her desert gear, but in white ceremonial robes. 1,000 voices whispered through the wind. Return, Keeper of Time. The city remembers you. She woke with a gasp. The camp was silent. Only the low hum of the machines, and that same pulse from beneath the sands. At dawn, she made her choice. She would go there, to the place where every expedition had vanished. Because Alia Kane wasn't just an explorer. She was remembering. The morning sun rose over dunes that shimmered like molten copper. Alia stood outside her tent, the data tablet in her hand still glowing with coordinates that didn't exist on any official map. Latitude and longitude erased from every archive, hidden beneath layers of classified codes. The name of the file chilled her. Mission Caravel, 1962. She scrolled through the report. French military insignia, faded stamps of the Ministère de la Défense. A secret expedition sent to explore anomalous magnetic readings in southern Algeria. It spoke of underground echoes, heat signatures unlike anything known. And then, abruptly, it ended. No closing entry. No survivors. But the last page held a handwritten note, scanned and archived decades later. We found the gate of the sun. The air hums with power. They were right. It's not a myth. If we enter, we must never return. Captain Emile Durand, January 12, 1962. The coordinates matched exactly with Alia's anomaly. Her pulse quickened. She opened the encrypted GPS map, and the screen flashed once, then turned black, leaving behind a single glowing symbol. A circle divided by 4 lines, intersecting in the center. The ancient solar sigil. And for a split second, she saw, not through the tablet, but through her mind's eye, a blazing sun setting over a colossal gate of stone. Its archway carved with eyes that watched her back. The wind outside howled like a living thing, shaking the camp's metal frames. Gate of the Sun. She whispered. It's real. Somewhere beyond the dunes, buried under endless sand, something stirred. The pulse grew louder. And the desert, air answered. The desert stretched endlessly before her, a golden sea swallowing everything that dared to cross it. Alia's vehicle hummed softly as it cut through the dunes, guided only by the ghostly coordinates of Mission Caravel. The radio crackled with static, though no frequency should have reached this far from civilization. Then, a voice. Faint. Distorted. Old. Durand, the gate, a light in the sand. Count. The transmission dissolved into a shriek of interference. Alia froze, her hand trembling above the dial. That recording was impossible. The Caravel team vanished over 60 years ago. Yet the voice was there, alive in the static, repeating itself like an echo trapped in time. She drove on, following the signal. Hours later, through the shimmering heat, she saw it. A rusted convoy half buried beneath a dune. The remains of French military jeeps, their metal frames twisted, glass melted as if by fire. And in the center of the wreckage, a flag, its colors long faded, marked with a single symbol. The Gate of the Sun. As she explored the site, she found a cracked radio receiver still powered by a corroded generator, its lights blinking weakly. On the side, someone had carved a message into the metal with a knife. The sand remembers. A chill crawled up her spine. The air felt charged, thick with electricity. And then, footsteps. Not hers. From beyond the wrecks came the faint rhythm of boots crunching sand, slow and deliberate. She turned. Nothing. Just the vast emptiness of the Sahara. But when she looked back at the vehicles, the message on the radio had changed. The screen flickered once more, and new words appeared in ancient script she somehow understood. Welcome back, Keeper. The horizon trembled with a mirage, or perhaps the faint outline of a colossal gate rising from beneath the dunes. The storm came without warning, a wall of dust that devoured the horizon. The sky darkened to bronze as Alia struggled to keep her footing, the wind screaming like 1,000 lost souls. But through the chaos, a shape began to rise from the sand. A structure. Impossible in scale. The storm parted for only a heartbeat, revealing what the desert had hidden for millennia, a colossal stone gate, half-buried yet defiant, carved from black basalt that shimmered like obsidian under the fading light. At its center blazed a massive sigil of the sun, the same symbol she had seen in her visions. It wasn't natural erosion. It was architecture. The gate stretched over 50 meters high, flanked by statues of robed figures whose faces had been worn smooth by time. Their hands reached toward the heavens, holding spheres etched with constellations no modern astronomer could recognize. Alia approached, her breath shallow. The air grew heavy, dense with energy that vibrated against her skin. Her compass spun wildly, her watch stopped ticking. Every instrument failed, except her heartbeat. And then, carved beneath the solar sigil, she saw the words, faint but legible, written in an ancient Proto-Berber script. We rose before the flood. We watched the stars fall. The sun shall open the way again. Her fingertips brushed the stone. A low hum rippled through the air, deep and resonant, as if the monument itself exhaled. The sigil began to glow, not with fire, but with light that pulsed in rhythm with her heart. Suddenly, memories not her own flooded her mind. Streets paved with golden dust, towers of crystal, people dressed in robes of white and bronze chanting beneath twin suns. She was there. She had been there. The vision shattered with a roar. Lightning split the storm above, striking the sand in front of the gate. The ground trembled, and a crack opened at its base, revealing a staircase spiraling into darkness. The entrance had awakened. Alia lifted her lantern, eyes wide with awe and fear. She took her first step into the depths below. The air beneath the gate was cold, unnaturally cold. Each breath Alia drew turned to mist, swallowed by the darkness curling below. She held her lantern high, its trembling flame casting ghosts of light against the stone walls as she began her descent down the spiral staircase. Every step echoed with a hollow resonance, like she was walking through the ribs of something alive. The walls were carved with reliefs that told no story any archaeologist had ever seen. Suns within suns, spirals of stars, human figures reaching toward the heavens while rivers of light flowed from their hands. The deeper she went, the stranger the carvings became. Figures transformed into beings of pure geometry, triangular faces, eyes like eclipses, limbs stretching across patterns that resembled star maps. And then she saw herself. A carving of a woman with her same eyes and face, wearing a robe marked with the same sigil that had burned on the gate of the sun. Beneath it, in the same ancient tongue, words glowed faintly as if reacting to her presence. When the keeper returns, the circle shall breathe again. The steps ended at a massive circular door of bronze, engraved with complex interlocking rings. Around its rim, symbols shifted slowly, not carved, but moving on their own, rearranging like the gears of a living mechanism. Alia's scientific mind faltered. This wasn't ancient. This was impossible. She placed her hand on the surface, and the bronze felt warm, almost like skin. The rings began to rotate faster, and a low hum vibrated through the chamber. Her lantern flickered, shadows stretching long across the walls. For a moment, she heard whispers, not from behind, but from inside her thoughts. "You are home." With a deep metallic sigh, the great door split open, releasing a gust of air so old it smelled of forgotten worlds. Golden dust drifted through the light of her lantern, and ahead, she saw the city. A vast subterranean expanse, glowing faintly under the earth. Domes, bridges, and towers made of stone and crystal, all buried for eternity. Alia Kane stood at the threshold of the lost city beneath the Sahara. The air shimmered with dust and light. As Alia stepped through the bronze gate, a vast cavern opened before her, a city carved into the bones of the earth itself. Towers of stone and crystal spiraled upward like frozen lightning, their surfaces alive with faint currents of blue energy. Bridges stretched across black chasms, connecting domes that glowed from within, pulsing slowly, like hearts. The silence was absolute. Even her footsteps seemed to vanish into it. She raised her lantern higher, its glow catching fragments of murals on the walls, scenes of scholars and star priests mapping constellations, channeling beams of light through massive lenses. A civilization that had once worshipped the motion of the stars, not gods. The deeper she walked, the more the silence pressed against her. Time felt suspended, her heart beat loud, her breath slow, as though reality itself had thickened. Then, a vibration rolled through the air. A soft hum, resonating from the ground beneath her boots. She knelt, pressing her palm to the cold floor. The stone was warm, alive. The circle is unbroken. The voice wasn't external. It bloomed inside her head, calm, ancient, neither male nor female. She spun around, scanning the ruins. Nothing moved. The light from her lantern flickered across the smooth walls, revealing a massive ring-like structure ahead, a circular plaza at the city's core. At its center stood an obelisk of translucent crystal, humming faintly with golden light. Etched across its base were words in the same unknown script. When memory returns, the stars shall rise again. Alia's knees weakened. The dream, the symbols, the call, everything was converging here. She approached the obelisk, trembling, and when she touched it, a surge of energy coursed through her, images flashing before her eyes, cities floating above oceans, two suns burning in a violet sky, and her own reflection in robes of white and gold. Then, darkness. The light of her lantern died, and the hum stopped. The city was silent once more. But in that silence, Alia realized something in the city had awakened. And it had recognized her. When the lantern flickered back to life, Alia found herself standing at the edge of a vast circular hall. The floor beneath her shimmered with symbols that moved like water, and the air vibrated with a strange harmony, as if the stones were breathing in unison. Ahead, a row of crystal columns stretched into the darkness, each one filled with what looked like mist, swirling and pulsing faintly with golden light. She stepped closer and realized the mist wasn't random. It formed faces. Human faces, flickering in and out of existence, their expressions peaceful, almost dreaming. Above the columns, a single line of ancient text pulsed faintly. Those who remember, remain. Alia's breath caught. She wasn't looking at statues or tombs. These were records of consciousness. Memories, preserved like echoes trapped in glass. One of the columns began to hum louder, responding to her presence. The golden mist inside brightened, forming the clear image of a woman. She wore white robes lined with bronze, her eyes deep and knowing, the same eyes Alia saw in the reflection of her dreams. "You have returned," the woman's voice echoed directly inside Alia's mind. The sands could not bury time. You were the keeper of the circle, guardian of the solar gate. Alia stumbled backward, shaking her head. "No, that's not possible. I'm not." "Your memory was sealed when the city fell," the voice continued gently. "We built this chamber to hold what we could not carry into the stars. When the signal rose again, you followed it, as you were meant to." Images flooded her vision, the city alive, its towers radiant under twin suns, priests aligning mirrors that harnessed light into impossible energy, the gate of the sun shining like fire. And above it all, her, leading them, holding a crystal sphere that pulsed like a second heart. Then the woman's image began to fade. The storm approaches once more. Below, the core still sleeps. Wake it, keeper, before the desert swallows the light forever. The column went dark. Silence fell again. But now Alia knew the truth. The city wasn't dead. It was waiting. And she was the only one who could awaken it. The floor of the memory chamber split open with a low mechanical sigh, revealing a spiral descent lined with shimmering veins of light. Alia hesitated only a moment before stepping into the abyss below, her lantern pale against the glow rising from beneath the earth. The air grew thick, humming with a frequency she could feel more than hear. Each step pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The walls were no longer stone but crystalline, alive with energy that flowed like liquid fire through transparent veins. As she descended, the hum deepened, no longer random, but melodic. It was as though the city itself was singing. At last, she entered a massive chamber, circular, cathedral-like, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center floated a sphere the size of a temple, a glowing core of pure light suspended in midair by invisible forces. Lightning-like filaments arced gently from it to the surrounding walls, illuminating ancient machinery half buried in sand and dust. Alia approached slowly, her reflection dancing across the luminous surface. It wasn't solid. The light moved like a living ocean, swirling with colors she didn't have names for. And then she saw herself again, not as she was now, but as she had been in the vision, robed, serene, holding the same sphere between her hands. "This is the heart of Solara," a voice whispered inside her mind. Not the same as before, but deeper, older. It remembers every dawn since the first light touched this world. Her fingertips hovered inches from the surface, and the hum intensified. A current of warmth spread through her arm, then her chest. The sphere responded, its glow expanding until the chamber was drenched in radiance. Visions flooded her mind, the rise of the city, the harmony between its people and the stars, the power they drew from the sun's resonance. But then, she saw the end, the sky darkening, the oceans rising, the people fleeing underground as a great storm devoured everything. "We preserved the light," the voice said. "But not without cost." The keeper fell, to rise again when the earth was ready. Tears welled in her eyes. The realization hit her like a storm. She was the keeper, reborn to awaken what her own hands had sealed away. The sphere pulsed once more, then sent out a beam of light that carved a path deeper into the darkness, towards something buried even further below. The sanctum of the sun. The beam of light from the core cut through the dark like a divine path, leading Alia deeper into the earth. The corridor ahead was narrow and smooth, its walls carved with symbols that glowed faintly as she passed, solar spirals, planetary alignments, and a recurring sigil of the twin suns she had seen in her visions. The temperature dropped. The hum that filled the air was no longer a song. It had become a heartbeat. Slow, deliberate, alive. At the end of the corridor, the passage widened into a vast, circular chamber, the sanctum of the sun. It was unlike anything she had seen before. The floor was a mosaic of gold and obsidian depicting a massive solar wheel, and in its center stood a crystal throne, surrounded by 8 towering pillars. Each pillar represented a celestial body, the sun, the moon, and 6 planets. Above her, the ceiling shimmered like a night sky, but the constellations were wrong. Older. Unknown. As she stepped into the circle, the light from the core followed her, weaving through the air-like threads of energy until it reached the throne. The structure came alive. Rotating rings began to move, gears humming softly, runes igniting one by one. A projection of pure light formed before her, a figure of radiant energy, neither man nor woman, wearing the crown of the twin suns. Its voice filled the chamber, resonant and sorrowful. "We were the children of the dawn. When the earth was young and the stars sang, we built this city to harmonize with the solar pulse, the living frequency of the cosmos. But greed unbalanced the circle. The resonance collapsed, and the sky fell. Images appeared around her, tidal waves swallowing cities, the sky raining fire, the people of Solara sealing their wisdom beneath the desert as the world reset itself. To protect the future, we placed the heart in slumber. Only when the resonance of the sun aligns once more, when the keeper returns, will the gate awaken." The light dimmed, focusing on Alia. the alignment begins again. The cycle nears completion. You must decide, awaken the light, or let it sleep. One path renews the world, the other ends it. The throne pulsed with golden energy, and the ground trembled beneath her feet. Alia felt the ancient power stirring, calling for her command, but also the danger in it. The same energy that once gave life to Solara had the power to destroy everything above. And somewhere above them, in the desert night, the sands began to shift, as if the Sahara itself was listening. The chamber shook as the ancient mechanism stirred, releasing a low, thunderous hum that reverberated through the bones of the earth. Alia stumbled toward the center of the sanctum, shielding her face from the light that poured from the crystal throne. The air vibrated with energy so intense it felt alive, like standing inside the heartbeat of a star. The voice of the radiant figure echoed again, deeper now, layered with countless tones. The suns align once more. The pulse of Solara returns. Choose, Keeper, restore the circle, or let the world of men inherit its silence. Alia's hands trembled. The golden mosaics beneath her feet had begun to move, spinning in concentric rings that mirrored the orbits of planets. Above, the artificial sky shimmered, not with constellations, but with memories. She saw the fall of Solara, temples collapsing, waves of light devouring cities, and the last of her people retreating beneath the sand. And then she saw Earth as it was now, fragile, fractured, poisoned by greed. She whispered into the blinding light, "If I awaken this, will it save us, or destroy us again? That depends on what you have become." Her heart pounded. The walls around her lit up with equations, not of mathematics, but of music. Harmonic frequencies, perfectly balanced, forming a language between science and spirit. She realized the city hadn't been powered by machinery alone. It had run on resonance, the unison of intention and sound. The energy built until every nerve in her body sang with it. She felt the core responding above, its radiance spreading through the tunnels like veins of living fire. The gate of the sun, far above in the desert, began to glow through the dunes, turning the night into gold. The figure extended a hand of pure light toward her. "Take the sphere. Complete the circle." A small orb floated from the throne, the heart of Solara's key. It hovered before her, pulsing with the same frequency she had felt since the day she discovered the signal. She reached out, and for a brief instant, everything stopped. Her mind filled with the hum of the planet, her heartbeat aligning with the rhythm of the earth, the stars, and the ancient city itself. The resonance recognized her. And then, the chamber exploded in light. The gate of the sun erupted through the desert floor, sending pillars of energy into the sky that pierced the clouds. Satellites above Earth detected the impossible surge. The world had just awakened something buried for 10,000 years. Alia fell to her knees, the orb glowing in her hands. The choice had been made. The sands of Eter Karma blazed as dawn broke, but this was no ordinary sunrise. The gate of the sun stood resurrected, its monolithic arches wreathed in molten light that pulsed like a living heart. Every grain of sand shimmered with golden resonance, vibrating in harmony with the newly awakened core of Solara. From orbit, satellites recorded the anomaly, a perfect circle of radiance expanding outward for hundreds of kilometers, as if the desert itself had become a beacon. Scientists scrambled for answers. The signal that Alia had chased for years was now deafening, a harmonic pulse that echoed through every radio band on Earth. Inside the sanctum, Alia lay still, bathed in the glow of the orb that hovered above her palms. Its surface no longer looked metallic. It was liquid, alive, reflecting the constellations of an age long lost. When she opened her eyes, the radiant figure was gone. Only its voice lingered in the resonance around her. The circle begins where it once ended. The Keeper has spoken. Let the light return. She staggered to her feet, the city's architecture now fully awake. What had once been stone and ruin now shimmered with crystalline veins of energy. The air smelled of ozone and ancient metal, and above her, through the transparent dome, she saw streaks of golden aurorae spreading across the desert sky. Outside, the world was changing. Dunes that had lain untouched for millennia began to shift. Metallic roots, conduits of Solara's design, rose from beneath the earth, connecting to long-forgotten pylons buried under the sand. The desert sang with low, rhythmic tones, like the breath of a sleeping god returning to life. In the cities far beyond, in Cairo, Istanbul, and Lemur, strange phenomena began to occur. Lights flickered in perfect sequence, compasses spun to face the west, and people heard faint whispers when they stood near old ruins, whispers that spoke in languages no one had heard in 10,000 years. Alia climbed to the surface as the wind roared with golden dust. From the horizon, she saw the gate of the sun fully open, a blinding corona forming between its pillars. The resonance from the orb in her hands synchronized with it, pulsing faster, stronger. She realized then, Solara's reawakening wasn't confined to this place. The network was planetary. Each ancient site, the pyramids, the ziggurats, the stone circles, was part of the same design. The world itself was the machine. Her breath caught as she whispered, "Oh my God, it's global." Lightning struck the desert, not from the sky, but from below. Energy erupted outward in lines that traced across continents, invisible to the eye, but recorded by every seismic monitor on Earth. Somewhere in the chaos, a new voice came through her headset. It wasn't the AI from her equipment. It was human. "Dr. Navarro, we're receiving your signal." "Who are you?" She froze. The voice came from a station she didn't recognize, and from a timeline that shouldn't exist. Static filled the comms, a hiss of sand and electricity twisting through the air. Alia pressed her headset tighter, her pulse hammering in her ears. "This is Dr. Alia Navarro, Expedition Solara. Who's speaking?" A pause. Then a man's voice, calm and distorted, answered. "Dr. Navarro, this is Commander Rahim Idris, Project Horizon. We received your distress signal, but our records show your transmission is impossible." Alia frowned, glancing at her equipment. "Impossible how?" "Because your coordinates are transmitting from the year 1924. The words froze her blood. Her instruments still read 2025. The same reality. The same desert. But the signal, the one she'd been chasing through the sands, had bent time itself. She stumbled out of the temple as the desert roared around her. The gate of the sun shone brighter, its energy spiraling skyward in a column of gold and blue. The air vibrated like a living drum, each pulse syncing with her heartbeat. "Dr. Navarro," the voice continued, "you've reactivated something buried deep beneath the Sahara. Our records show this energy signature first appeared exactly a century ago, and then vanished. What you're seeing, we saw too." Her mind raced. Could it be that Project Horizon was one of those expeditions that had vanished in the 1920s, swallowed by the desert, their remains never found? If so, they were speaking to her through the anomaly itself. Raheem, as she said slowly, you're not in the present. You're in the past. This is 2025. Whatever happened to your team, it's happening again. There was silence. Then the man's tone changed, strained, almost reverent. Then you must be the one they spoke of. The Keeper Reborn. Her breath hitched. What did you just say? We found carvings here, in an underground vault. They showed a woman with your face standing before the gate. They said she would come when the sun burns beneath the earth. Her knees weakened. The realization struck her like thunder. She wasn't just retracing their steps. She was the continuation of their story. The circle truly had no end. Lightning flared again, splitting the horizon. Through the storm, Alia saw fleeting images, ghostly outlines of people in 1920s gear, walking through the same dunes. For a moment, the veil between centuries thinned, and she could see them, and they could see her. A man raised his hand toward her, the same voice from the comms, his eyes wide with disbelief. You're real. And then, in an instant, they were gone. The mirage vanished. The gate's glow dimmed, and silence devoured the desert once more. Alia collapsed to her knees, sand pouring through her fingers like time itself. Somewhere deep beneath, she could still hear the hum of Solara, ancient, patient, eternal. The past and future had just touched, and it had chosen her as the bridge. Night fell over the Sahara, but darkness no longer ruled the dunes. The gate of the sun glowed faintly, whispering light across the horizon. The air shimmered with golden dust, each particle pulsing in rhythm, not random, but patterned, like notes in a forgotten symphony. Alia stood at the edge of the ancient plaza, exhausted yet awake in every sense. The orb she carried now floated inches above her palm, its glow soft but alive. She realized it wasn't just a source of power, it was transmitting. When she tilted it toward the stars, beams of light refracted outward, connecting constellations one by one. Lines formed across the sky, triangles, circles, and spirals, until the heavens themselves became a vast map. But it wasn't a map of the stars. It was a mirror. Each star above had a twin marked somewhere on Earth. The geometry of Solara wasn't celestial, it was terrestrial. Every beam corresponded to an ancient site, the Great Pyramid of Giza, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Tiwanaku, and others still buried beneath the sands of time. Alia gasped softly. The network, or it's global. They built the Earth as a reflection of the sky. She traced the final line of light, and it pointed directly beneath her, under the gate of the sun, deep into the desert's buried heart. There, the lines converged in a single, blazing point. The map called at the heart of Solara. As she watched, symbols began to form around her, spiraling runes of gold etched into the sand, circling her like fireflies. The orb pulsed faster, syncing with the Earth's magnetic field. Her recording drone flickered to life on its own, projecting a holographic overlay. The ancient symbols aligned perfectly with coordinates that no map had ever shown. Latitude, longitude, and depth. Beneath the dunes lay a structure spanning miles, a geometric labyrinth carved into the bedrock. A perfect circle surrounded by 6 smaller nodes, each pulsing with energy. Alia's breath trembled. "It's a reactor," as she whispered. "An ancient energy core." But then the voice from earlier, Rahim Idris, echoed faintly through her headset again, distorted and fading. "Dr. Navarro, if you reach the heart, beware. The last team that tried, they never came back. The light, it wasn't just power. It remembers." The signal cut to static. Alia stared at the glowing dunes. The light that pulsed beneath them seemed to react to her presence, as if the city itself recognized her. She realized with chilling clarity, she wasn't merely discovering Solara. She was reactivating it. And something deep below was waking up. The entrance opened with a sound like a sigh. As Alia placed the orb into a socket carved at the gate's base, the desert floor trembled, sand sliding away in cascading rivers to reveal a descending spiral of obsidian steps. Warm light bled from the cracks, illuminating ancient glyphs that pulsed as if alive. Her heart pounded. The air was heavy, humming with an invisible vibration. Each step downward brought a faint sense of déjà vu, the echo of a life she couldn't remember but could somehow feel. The deeper she went, the more the air changed. It wasn't just dry desert air anymore. It carried a metallic tang, like ozone before lightning, and a faint, rhythmic hum, the pulse of something massive, slumbering and alive. At the bottom of the spiral, a cavern opened before her. It wasn't made by hands, it had been grown. Crystalline structures curved upward like ribs, their surfaces breathing with golden veins. Between them flowed threads of light, connecting into a central core suspended in midair, a sphere of liquid energy, spinning silently. It was beautiful and terrifying. When she stepped closer, her headset crackled again. A faint voice whispered in an ancient tongue, melodic, mournful, but not human. She recognized fragments of the language from inscriptions above. It was Proto-Solaran, a language that shouldn't exist. And then she heard another voice. Her own, but older, layered through the static. To awaken the heart is to awaken memory. "You have been here before, Alia." She froze. "What are you?" "You are the vessel. The keeper reborn. Solara remembers you as you once were, its guardian, its architect, its last voice before the sands took it." The sphere pulsed faster, golden light racing up the crystalline walls until the entire chamber blazed. Visions flooded her mind, a civilization of luminous cities beneath twin suns, beings of radiant energy weaving matter and starlight into form. They had built Solara not as a city, but as a living consciousness, a planetary network to preserve balance between Earth and the cosmos. But then came the fall. A great storm of fire and dust, and the decision to bury the heart beneath the sands, until humanity was ready to hear its voice again. Alia collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed by the flood of memory. The orb in her hands melted into the air, its energy merging with her skin. Lines of light appeared along her arms, glowing faintly like circuitry. "You are the last key," the voice said. The line of Solara was never broken. It only slept within you. The cavern began to quake. The great core of Solara throbbed with awakening light. But amid the brilliance, Alia saw something moving inside the sphere, a shadow taking form, tall and graceful, watching her with eyes of molten gold. Not all that slept was light. The shadow within the sphere began to move. Its outline rippled like smoke trapped inside crystal, shifting between form and formlessness. Alia felt her breath catch as golden fissures streaked across the chamber, the energy field bending around the entity as if in reverence. Then, with a soft crack of air, it stepped out of the light. A being of radiant darkness stood before her, tall, slender, and draped in shimmering patterns that flowed like starlight through shadow. Its eyes burned gold, twin suns behind translucent lids. The air around it vibrated with power, and yet, Alia didn't feel fear. She felt recognition. "You've come home," the being said, its voice layered, echoing through the walls and her bones alike. Alia swallowed. "Who are you?" "I am what remains of you." She took a step back. "That's not possible." "It is not only possible," it said, "it is necessary. You were the first keeper, the one who sealed the heart before the fall. When you chose to sleep among mortals, I remained, bound to guard the city until your return." Memories rippled through her, not images, but sensations, the warmth of a twin sun, the hum of energy beneath her hands, the final moment before everything went dark. She had done this before. The being extended its hand. "You named me Cain, the shadow of the keeper. I am your reflection, the echo that carries what you chose to forget." "Why did I forget?" she whispered. "Because no one can bear eternity without losing themselves." The chamber shuddered. The golden veins along the crystalline walls brightened, their rhythm accelerating. Solara's awakening was reaching a critical point. "You've triggered the Ascension Protocol," Cain said, eyes narrowing. "If it completes without your guidance, the heart will burn itself out, and with it, the network that binds this world to the stars." Ali's mind raced. "Then tell me how to stop it." Cain tilted his head. "You can't stop it. You can only become it." Before she could respond, the floor split open. Pillars of light surged upward, swallowing her in brilliance. She felt her body dissolve into vibration, atoms unraveling, consciousness stretching beyond physical form. She screamed, but no sound came. The heart was rewriting her. Through the blinding radiance, she saw Cain's shape merging with hers, their forms fusing, shadow and light entwining like halves of the same soul. "Remember who you are," he whispered. "And remember why you sealed the city." Then, silence. The light faded, and Alia stood alone once more, glowing faintly, her skin traced with golden sigils. But the voice inside her mind was no longer just her own. The desert above trembled as if the earth itself were breathing again. Far below, within the luminous core of Solara, Alia opened her eyes, though it no longer felt as though she had eyes at all. Her vision stretched in every direction. She could see through walls, through time, through the memory of the planet itself. The golden sigils along her skin pulsed like living constellations, each one a fragment of knowledge returning to her. And then, like the opening of a celestial gate, the memories came. She saw the birth of Solara, a civilization that existed long before recorded history, when the world was still young and the air shimmered with radiant energy from twin suns. The Solarians were not gods, but engineers of light, beings who understood that consciousness and matter were mirrors of one another. They built their cities not from stone, but from resonance, harmonic frequencies that shaped reality itself. Their crowning creation was the heart, a vast energy nexus meant to sustain balance between Earth's magnetic soul and the heavens above. The keepers, guardians chosen by the heart, maintained the equilibrium, channeling its power through human vessels across the ages. But then came the collapse. A great cosmic event, the dying of one sun. The equilibrium faltered. Energy storms ravaged the earth. In desperation, the keepers sealed Solara beneath the sands, silencing the heart until the world evolved enough to awaken it safely. And Alia, the first keeper, had made the final choice. She divided her essence in two, one half buried with Solara to guard it, the other sent to live, die, and reincarnate among humans until the time of return. Alia, her shadow self, had waited all those millennia for her rebirth. Now she remembered everything. The light around her dimmed to a soft, golden glow. The walls of the chamber responded to her presence, shifting fluidly like living stone. She could feel the network of Solara stretching across the world, buried temples, dormant pylons, forgotten circles of stone humming faintly beneath continents. But there was something else. A darkness pulsing from beyond the edges of the map, an anomaly that moved against the rhythm of the world. It followed us, it whispered Cain's voice within her. The shadow of the dying sun. You sealed it away once, but now, with the heart awakened, it stirs again. Alia clenched her fists, the golden sigils burning brighter. Then it's not over. No, Cain murmured, calm but grave. It's only beginning. She turned toward the spiral passage leading upward, the orb of Solara's energy now orbiting around her like a second heart. Above her, the dunes shifted, and the first rays of dawn pierced through the cracks. For the first time in 10,000 years, the keeper of the sun walked the earth again. And the world was about to remember. The desert was no longer silent. The dunes writhed beneath an invisible pulse, the sand rising in towering waves, drawn towards something beneath the earth. Alia's senses, stretched by the heart, detected it first, a presence vast, cold, and unrelenting. It was the inverse of Solara's light, a shadow older than memory, a remnant of the cosmic collapse that had buried the city 10,000 years ago. Cain appeared beside her, radiant yet somber. It has always followed the circle. When you awaken the heart, the shadow awakens too. Its hunger is not for power, but for balance. Alia's hands glowed with golden light, sigils tracing across her arms as she raised the orb. The shadow pulsed in the distance, a void of absolute darkness, moving like liquid beneath the dunes. Every grain of sand it touched blackened and vibrated, as if the desert itself shivered in fear. It learned from us, Cain continued. It knows the frequencies of life, the rhythm of light. It will try to unmake what we built. The ground split open, a fissure extending toward the horizon. From it rose shapes, twisted, distorted reflections of Solara's own architecture, warped into jagged black spires. The shadow was forming a mirror city beneath the dunes, feeding on the energy released by the heart. Alia clenched her jaw. Then we fight it. Cain's golden gaze met hers. Not fight. Harmonize. The heart does not destroy. It balances. You must extend its resonance, or it will consume us all. The orb pulsed fiercely, projecting beams of light into the sky. Alia could feel the shadow recoiling, but it was clever. It pulsed back, matching her frequency, probing for weaknesses. She closed her eyes, letting the memories of Solara flood her, the harmonic engineering, the songs of the stars, the twin suns' resonance. Every heartbeat, every whisper of the past, was now part of her. She raised her hands, and the golden sigils flared like suns reborn. A wave of energy rolled outward from her, striking the shadow. The void screamed, not in sound, but in vibration. Mountains of sand shook as the two forces clashed. Yet Alia felt something else. The shadow wasn't just destruction. It was a lesson. It wanted her to remember why Solara had been sealed. The air shimmered, the sand sang, and the desert became a battlefield of light and dark, not one of violence, but of resonance, memory, and balance. Alia realized she was no longer just the keeper. She was the bridge between creation and annihilation. And the shadow was only the first test. The desert trembled as light and shadow danced across the dunes. Alia closed her eyes, letting the heart's pulse synchronize with her own heartbeat. The golden sigils along her arms thrummed, sending waves of energy rippling through the air. Kaan hovered beside her, a calm counterpoint to the chaos. "Remember the songs of Solara," he whispered. "They were never meant to destroy, only to align." Alia took a deep breath, recalling the harmonic frequencies the ancients had used, the notes of twin suns, the spirals of sound that had shaped the city's architecture, the resonance that wove life and matter together. Slowly, she projected her own frequency outward, weaving a melody of light into the storm. The shadow convulsed. Its darkness pulsed, thick and viscous, responding to her vibrations. But instead of recoiling in fear, it began to hum, a low, resonant tone, at first discordant, then slowly aligning with Alia's song. The dunes shifted as if listening, sand spiraling upward in golden tornadoes. The twisted black spires beneath the desert began to straighten, their jagged edges smoothing, bending in harmony with the rhythm she projected. The shadow was learning. "Do you see?" Kaan said. "It is not your enemy. It is the echo of what we fail to understand." Alia extended her hands, the heart's orb floating between her palms. Light shot outward in radiant beams, striking every dark tendril of the shadow. Instead of shattering, the void reshaped itself, forming a lattice of dark crystal that complemented the golden network of Solara above. For the first time, the desert sang as one. Light and shadow intertwined, weaving a tapestry of energy that pulsed like a living heartbeat beneath the Sahara. The dunes glowed with golden veins, black fissures glimmering in perfect counterpoint, the echo and balance of Solara restored. Alia opened her eyes. The shadow stood before her, no longer threatening, its molten gold eyes reflecting respect, understanding, or even reverence. "You have completed the resonance," Kaan said. "The heart is awake, the shadow aligned. Solara remembers, and the world is ready to remember with it." Alia looked toward the horizon. The sun rose, but brighter, purer, reflecting the pulse of an ancient city reborn beneath the sands. She felt the planet itself breathing, listening, harmonizing with the rhythm she now commanded. The keeper had returned, and the desert had begun to sing again. With the shadow harmonized, the desert's tremor ceased, replaced by a serene hum, the sound of Solara's heartbeat finally echoing freely. Alia walked among the luminous dunes, the orb floating beside her like a guide. The golden veins beneath the sand pulsed gently, revealing pathways that had been hidden for millennia. She descended once more into the labyrinth beneath the gate of the sun. The crystalline walls now shimmered in patterns that made sense, ancient equations, star maps, and harmonic formulas forming a coherent language of energy. Every pulse, every vibration, carried knowledge. She touched a wall, and memories poured into her. The Solarians had harnessed energy from planetary alignments, channeling it through crystal networks that could heal, illuminate, and even alter matter. Their cities were alive, able to reshape themselves in response to thought and intention. The heart was not merely a power source, but a repository of consciousness, storing the wisdom and experience of generations. Among the revelations, a darker truth surfaced. The Solarians had foreseen human greed, the force that had once brought the shadow into existence. Their plan had been to hide Solara until humanity evolved enough to harmonize with it without destruction. Alia's awakening was a test, a final opportunity to prove that balance could endure. Kaan materialized beside her, now less shadow than presence. "This knowledge is powerful," Ihi said. "It could heal nations or destroy them. The heart trusts you to guide it." Alia nodded, understanding the weight of her role. She was no longer a mere archaeologist or explorer. She was the keeper of a civilization older than history itself. The secrets beneath the Sahara were no longer dormant. They whispered to her, offering insight, guidance, and warnings in equal measure. The desert outside shimmered, golden and black in perfect harmony. Solara was alive, its memory restored, and Alia could feel the network connecting to distant monuments, sending ripples across the planet. Humanity was about to awaken to a power it had never imagined, and only she could ensure it was used wisely. As she emerged onto the dunes, the sun gleamed over the horizon, reflecting in the gate of the sun. The city beneath slept no more. Alia inhaled the warm desert air. The keeper's journey was far from over. The desert lay quiet under the golden morning sun, yet beneath its sands, the heartbeat of Solara pulsed like a living force. Alia stood atop the gate of the sun, the orb of the heart orbiting around her. The shadow, now fully integrated, moved alongside her, neither threatening nor separate, a silent partner in the resonance of the ancient city. She could feel the planet itself responding, winds carrying whispers of knowledge, oceans thrumming with energy, and mountains vibrating softly with harmonic balance. Every ancient site she had seen on the map pulsed in sync, forming a global network that had waited for millennia to awaken. Alia inhaled deeply. She was no longer the woman who had chased a signal through the Sahara. She was the keeper, the bridge between past and present, light and shadow, humanity and the forgotten wisdom of Solara. The orb hovered higher, projecting golden beams into the sky. Symbols she could now read with perfect clarity, harmonic codes, star charts, and mathematical songs of creation, shimmered in the desert air. She realized she had access not only to the city's memory, but to the very essence of its power. "The world must learn," Ikayan said beside her, his voice steady and warm. "But it must learn wisely. And you will guide it." Alia nodded, understanding the responsibility laid upon her. The shadow stirred, sending a ripple through the orb, a reminder that even harmony required vigilance. The desert was alive, but it was a delicate balance. Light and shadow, past and present, knowledge and restraint, all must coexist. She looked toward the horizon, where distant sands shimmered with hints of buried nodes, hidden cores of Solara's network. Humanity would awaken slowly, discovering fragments of the ancient civilization. But she would guide them, teaching restraint, understanding, and respect for a power that had been lost for 10,000 years. The Sahara stretched infinitely, golden and black, alive with resonance. Alia extended her hands, the sigils along her arms glowing brighter than ever. The heart pulsed in response, spreading its energy across the planet in waves of radiant light. Solara remembers, as she whispered, voice steady, carrying over the dunes. And now, so shall the world. With that, Alia descended into the labyrinth once more, not as an explorer, not as a seeker, but as the keeper of Solara, the guardian of a civilization reborn, and the guide of humanity into a new era of harmony, light, and knowledge. The desert hummed. The stars above aligned in perfect resonance. And the lost city beneath the Sahara was alive again.